Welcome to the Trip Show, where we're helping entrepreneurs build the next billion-dollar business. We want to support your journey and see more Trips win rather than lose. And how many people can you count that are Trips and failed to build a business from their idea? It's going to shock you, right? You can count them all up, I bet you, on maybe 2 or 5 hands. That's why we're here. I'm your host, Gary Dobbs, bringing to you live on this Thursday, the 14th of December in 2017, resources to help you design and build the next billion-dollar business. I could be out doing something else right now, but instead I'm chose to spend time and money for you so that you can build assets and not liabilities. So let's get started and make progress. Welcome everybody. Glad to have you with us. I'll be hosting the show today. Thaddeus Archibald is out hustling, putting events together. And so we got something special cooking up for you, so you can expect him back next week. You know, our show's title today is about make business serve art, right? And what do I mean by that? It's like, I think in a good way, we're talking about working on your business, paying attention to some details in a way that's going to attract and shock people. You know, like, you want to capture attention. You want people to realize that you're really putting some skill into what your business is and what you do. And so you want that detail to shine. We're not talking about focusing on minuscule details that are going to go unnoticed or that people don't value. We are talking about true value, something that people will admire and reflect on with your business, right? So, you know, and don't let anybody stop you. You know, make your business serve art. You know, and there's a story that I want to get into today with you, and just talk about a story of a Trep. His name's Lear Cohen, and how he built and rise the ranks of becoming one of the greatest music moguls of our time. He started out, you know, back in the day, was really into hip hop and rap. He was worked with companies like before Def Jam and, you know, and all that. He's with 360 now. But before that, you know, he was hustling, man. He was out on the streets for 3 years just touring with groups. He was like a roadshow manager. You know, he's putting in the hard work to do the business. But I feel like he definitely had a purpose and felt connection and affinity to what he was doing, because there were other jobs and other things he had did before that that just weren't driving him. You know, he didn't wake up imagining what he was going to look for next to make his business work, right? And that's part of it. What you need to do is focus on your passion, focus on, you know, what makes sense to you. So let's get into the foundation work. You're talking about, we want to help you build the next billion-dollar business. So let's go through a framework here about Lear Cohen's story, which you can find. We're going to post a link in today's show. When you listen to it on, you can listen to it on our website or find it in other places. But after the show today, we'll post a link to a resource that you can also get a little bit more details on his story. So this is not going to be a step-by-step process of Lear Cohen's story and business, but we're going to use the framework to help you to create your own story and tell your own narrative. And that's the point of our show here. So in your foundation, right, know your worth. First part, it's like, if you feel miserable at work and nothing makes sense, or make a change. Just decide what else you can do, right? It's just as simple as stop going to bed and then waking up the next morning and going back to that place you just despise, right? Really make a change right now and do something else, even if it's not going to be related to the field what you're doing. It could be, you could just be looking for something to drive you and to, you know, push you through the ups and the downs. So know your worth. You know, really look at what inspires you, who you admire, who you want to be surrounded by. Think about those smart people and what they do, and maybe try to put it into an industry. It doesn't always work for everybody, but a lot of the successful people I've known have focused on an industry that they can just commit the rest of their life to and focus on that business. So you you want to really know your worth. You want to define what that is. And I'll get into something a bit later about helping you make that decision. Next, is get it done. Work with confidence, right? Everything you do matters, so you can affect change. And so go in with it, the confidence that there is really no skill you need that you don't have. All right. So this is one thing that separates a lot of the top salespeople in business compared to others. Top salespeople go in even when they don't know the product very well, or even when they're still learning and getting comfortable in the business, and they haven't really gotten into the flow of the company. But they're so confident in their ability, and they probably already decided themselves. They said, hey, this is a product that I would purchase myself. I believe in it, so I'm going to sell it, right? So they're so confident that what they're doing is going to make someone else's life better. They can get started off so quickly and make so much money in the business without knowing too much about it, because they are so confident that they just know in their gut that this is going to improve someone's life. That's why they chose it. If they didn't see it happening, if they just didn't feel that connection, they would have said, no, I'm going to go work somewhere else, right? So be clear on that with yourself, and just get in there, get in there and do the work that you don't know how to do, right? But stick to your priorities on what your role and function is. So, and this was a part of Leah Corn's story where he was still trying to just define and get started at what he was doing. So he was a roadshow manager, and now he was really putting in work, getting it done. Not really working from any skills in the industry, but just trying to build those skills up day by day, but knowing that, he had the confidence, everything he was doing was going to matter. And so he should be there. He should be on the level. Even people of much higher, greater skill than him, he deserves to be there, right? So work with confidence. Next part, acknowledge your defeat. If you're experiencing pain, just acknowledge it, especially when it comes to defeat. You want to really clarify that and accept that. Remember it, because if you found your passion, that's not going to hold you back. You're going to continue forward, right? You're going to be a little rattled. You're going to be shaken. Maybe you've taken off your game for a bit. But it's not going to take you away from your path, right? It may slow you down for a bit. It may knock you down. It's definitely not going to hold you back. You're going to keep pushing forward. So acknowledge that defeat, recognize it, just admit it, and then feel what that is, and be flexible, right? So moving forward, you want to learn the power of flexibility, practice preparedness, work harder at that, thoughtful execution. Going back to that in the first part, really paying attention to the aesthetic that's what you're presenting, and really put out something that people can admire, like art. And lastly, with calmness under fire. I like to call it with myself what I call being calm, cool, and collected. So even though I know majority of the time what I'm doing is not going to make sense to other people, it doesn't matter. And even when other people feel affected by it, it matters, but not to the point of my sanity and to my keeping myself calm, cool, and collected, because I know that what I've decided to do and doing is what's best for my future in the long term. So you gotta stick with it under fire. You gotta really stick with it. And this brings us to the next part, where you want to learn the business. Get to know really what the business is. So you might have just suffered defeat. You could move on by just saying, well, what is this business that I'm in? Don't blame other people. Just figure out, what's this business? How does it work? And start focusing on the creation of what your business requires of you. So be present. Don't look at the future. I'm an idea person. I tend to focus on the vision a lot. So this would be in the moment. If I was in this moment, I would refrain from looking in the future. I would refrain from looking at the past. Try not to reflect on things. Just really focus on, okay, what needs to get done right now, even if you don't know how to do it, right? So this is going to really empower you to really say, okay, I'm going to figure this out, because you're going back to know your worth. You don't have to have all the skills right now. You can actually figure it out along the way. So learn the business as you're trying to pick yourself up, build your skills, grow your business, move forward. The next, be flexible. Necessity is a motherfucker, and things are going to happen without your choice and decision in it. So, like, this is a remarkable part of Larry Korn's story that I had watched. He was being interviewed and explaining that when he was building Def Jam, Rick Rubin had left. I'm pretty sure, I think it was Def Jam that they had together. And Rick Rubin left and went to go create American Records. And Rick Rubin was a big inspiration to him, because there was a level of work and care and attention to detail as dorm room mates in college that Leo admired of Rick. So it wasn't anything that he had planned for, right? It just happened. So he had to be present. He had to figure out, well, what are we going to do next, right? Like, don't focus out on what you lost. Don't focus on what they did to you. Don't focus on, oh my God, just going into that downward spiral is not going to take you. It's not going to put you in the right direction in your path. You've got to just realize, you know what? Necessity is a motherfucker. I've got to keep moving on. Be flexible. Continue, and things are going to work out. So that brings us to find your confidence, right? You got to clarify your business vision. So this is where earlier I had said I was going to help you in something on, well, what do I do? Where's my passion, right? So the way you clarify your business vision is you need to make a decision. Just decide. It's not hard. Don't overcomplicate it or feel like it's written in stone. It's not. Just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, and how you're going to do it. How are you going to get there, right? Just decide on it. Whatever you have right now. It's not, you're not defining yourself for the rest of your life here. But you need to make that decision right now with what you know and understand about yourself, and know about what you're passionate for and what contributions you want to make in your business. You need to write those 3 questions down and answer them. Put them up on your wall. Have them there to remind yourself how you answered them, so that you can, every day when you're working, you get lost and you look at things, you're, oh yeah, okay, that's right, I made that decision, this is what it's going to be. And you're going to just continue to commit to that. What you're going to find out is, from that point, the universe is going to get out of your way, right? There's no more, you're not getting in the way of yourself. And that's the real value of this here. It's people doubt you, or people confront you, or people try to pull you back. It's not going to happen. They might try, but it sure as heck isn't going to last. So it's just going to bounce right off you. So those obstacles, those people just become obstacles, and you can't stay focused on your goal and your vision. Part 2 of this foundation is, you want to start to kind of work on things like be clear in your direction, right? So we just talked about finding your confidence. So don't copy what others do. Literally take those 3 questions down, write them out, because you can make a big difference without doing it in the way industry leaders are expect right now, right? So you could go against the grain, and people are going to just look at you like, what? You're crazy. Like, nobody's doing it that way. What's up with you? What? No, you're going to get all people nobody understands what you're talking about except you, right? That is fine. I almost recommend it, because it's better to go against the grain, because usually industries are changed not from the inside, but from the outside. So it's the people that don't understand the industry, the people that don't know how the wheel is greased and works. It's the people that just come in and see a different way of things happening, that they can make a better contribution and add more value, and they just do it, right? So stand out with subtlety. Get to work, be a hard worker, understand why you're doing what you're doing, and just continue to do it. Even when people keep asking you and doubt you and want to know and are confused and still don't understand, forget about it, right? You have to ignore them. And then by standing out with subtlety, eventually people are going to recognize you for what you do, because you're present in the room, and you're now seen as an expert or a leader, but you're present without shouting about it. Like, you're going to find that when you get into and do it, a lot of people most of the time are going to shout about how great they are. So you can practice humility here. Be humble. Just be present without shouting, and people will notice you. You might not hear it all or see what's happening, but trust me, if you're doing something and you're rising to the top of your game, people will notice whether you're aware of it or not. So the 5 slices of a pie here is kind of an example I took from that, watching Leo Cohen's story and interview. Was when he, after he moved on and created another company, I was always looking at how can I empower the artist, right? He really, and this is where I align with him and why I chose this story, because at the TREP show and even at my company, Gary Dobbs Consulting, it's about education. It's about empowering my customers. It's about engaging with them and connecting with them. And I want to build a community with them. And Leo Cohen kind of shares this because they've, for a long time, were the behind the scenes label. They would work with other labels and help artists grow their artistry and their business over the long term, but wouldn't be labeled on the disc, wouldn't be labeled on the record. But everybody knew in the industry, they were known, right? You just might not see it stamped, but they were involved with the project. So he had taken that at this point, where he called it he drew up this diagram. It's called like the 5 slices of pie for record deals. And he started looking at it like a piece is the record sales, there was the touring, there was the merchandising, there was the publishing, and there was the licensing. So you had these 5 slices of the company that were different areas that they could make money for the business, right? And being aware of them, understanding now, because he's more at the top of his game, he understood how the business worked now because he had done all that work. And so he wasn't taking advantage of trying to monopolize this, but really empower the artists and help them understand and see what is available to them, how they need to structure their business. And having a business partner like him as a label is a good thing. Giving a share of it to someone that is wiser and more experienced with it, but has your same interest in the line, could be a really powerful thing. It's going to propel you forward a lot faster. And, part of this too is just, it's really about getting lucky. He had explained when, a time Lee Coren was forced to sell his company. He was forced to do something he didn't want to do. But years later, he realized it was the best time for that to happen. And so he was forced to sell Def Jam Records, I think it was, in 99. It's 2017 and this interview took place. 18 years later, it still was the highest point in year and for a month since then for a record label. It was like the highest point, record labels were at their highest value at that point. So they've seen a long kind of slow downward devaluing because of the internet and because of the change of the digital experience and what we call digital marketing as opposed to the way they were used to doing things. So he was forced to sell, which was the best decision for him. But if he was given the choice, he would not have. So he was explaining it like, oh man, I would have just continued to write it down. So he explained it like life works like that. It's really crazy. Like sometimes you just get really lucky because he did not make that decision. He was forced into it and it ended up being the best time in history to sell for that business. So next is you want to think about working smarter. All right, work at real relationships where you're engaged with the right people. So in my business, I'd like to share with you, there's recently been a company that I partnered with called Leverage. There's a great founder there, a guy named Nick Sonnenberg, very smart guy. He's a data scientist. Basically just means he is really strong in mathematics, probably understands applied mathematics and understands computer engineering. So he can work with large sets of data. So a data scientist is usually doing very high skilled level of work on databases and so forth. Really smart analytical guy, right? I've aligned with him and I've been following with him for quite a while. So recently I partnered with him with my business to support it and to grow my business so I can deliver more value to my customers, be able to do more for them by having a business partner, by having somebody that can do things that I cannot, and I can leverage that company and I can continue to focus on what I specialize in. And now we have this business partnership. See, so this is a lot like what Lior Cohen was doing when he was early on in Def Jam, like he was working with Rockefeller Records or other records. They would get the credit. Rockefeller Records might have the credit on the record, but Def Jam was still involved with the project. They just weren't prominently displayed on it, right? So it's sort of looking for partnerships like that. You can still become a major player. So it's not always about credibility. And this brings me to like really thinking about the values of your company or you work with. So with mine, it's about educate. The Trepp Show is we're here to educate you. We're here to engage with you. That's why we have the Facebook group community. Please join us there. We also want to empower you. That's why we put together materials and try to put these shows together in a digestible way that is going to empower you to make smarter decisions with your business. Because we're really honest about the fact that we are trying to connect with the next billion-dollar business founders, right? There's going to be more of them. We've had a lot already, but there's going to be more and more. And those are the people we're trying to find before they get there, because we want to empower them. And lastly, connect. That's why we have the Trepp Show podcast. We have the Trepp Show Facebook group called Trepp Talk. So please join us and really just connect, learn from each other, and kind of see what we're posting, talking about, and just get in the discussion, because communities work really well when you're not only just asking you buy a product from a company and you only ask for their advice, but you start getting advice from other people that have bought the same product, so you can find, well, they might be in a different position with their business, and so they're doing something different with the same product. And if you might be able to learn something from that person by asking, I have this, I'm trying to do that, here's what I did. You might learn something from somebody else that bought the exact same thing, but they have a completely different intention with it. So really try to work smarter. Partner with the right people that really want to see you win, because they're not only trying to win themselves, but they're trying to empower you to win. Next, this is why one of my favorite parts of his discussion of Lior Cohen's story is reinvent yourself. Be prepared to eat yourself and reinvent yourself in order to grow. So there are going to come times when you realize that, man, you're just being over challenged. This is a growth spot. It's hard. You don't feel equipped. You might be questioning yourself, like, do I have what it takes? So just be prepared to eat that person. You're like, okay, that person is not me no longer. I'm going to eat that person and become someone else. I need to acquire new skills. I need to expand outside my comfort zone. I need to grow more. I need to reach farther. And so look at yourself in that way, how you realize what is the next level that you need to get to, that puts you in line with the path that you've chosen, right? There's always somebody you admire. There's nobody else out there, that is completely, truly self-made, right? A lot of people talk about being self-made, and they are. I mean, they decided to do something and that nobody held them back. Maybe they became a self-made millionaire, self-made billionaire, build a business, self-made. Nobody taught them. They just figured it out. But the important part to learn about that is they also had people they admire. So even whether they have a relationship with this person or maybe they didn't, but they just followed their story, took little pieces here and there, they found that and applied that to their own business. You could use the R2A2 formula I learned a long time ago called R2A2 is a formula put on by W. Clement Stone, and it's about recognize and relate to people and their situations, and then you want to assimilate and apply that knowledge. Okay, so R2A2, you want to recognize and relate to their situation, and then you want to assimilate, mean put it into your own action and apply it to whatever problem you're going through. That's how you learn from people that you don't know. Maybe you learned a little bit about their story, but you spot something that you didn't understand something before, or you just forgot about it, and that's how you're going to go to and apply it into your own business. Part 3 is, we're talking about renovations here now, right? So this part of the story, he had really gotten to growth, really been very, very successful now for a number of years. And Lear Cohen went on to take a position which he said it wasn't anything he wanted to do. Like, he went to go work as the head of music for YouTube. Well, that was something he said is not a position he was interested in at all. He didn't want to do that. But it was an opportunity to where rather than look to see what he can get from it, he looked at it as, what contributions can I make with it? And Google's one of 4 brands in the world right now that are just dominating, not just their marketplace, but dominating the globe. There's The 4, a book you should go pick up. It's called The 4 by some guy that's a pretty smart advertising guy at L2G2 or something like that. It's called The 4. Go check it out. It just came out recently. He's been touring a lot, interviewing with people, like he interviewed with Tai Lopez about it. And he talks about Google, Facebook, Apple, and the other 4th company, Amazon. So sometimes, just partnering with companies like that, right? Because YouTube's a part of Google. So when he took that job as global head of music for YouTube, he's taking a position that he has no personal desire for, but he's going to focus on what contributions can he make to give back to the industry. So that's the point here, is give back to your industry at this point. And that's even something you can do early on. You don't have to become highly successful or at a super high level to begin practicing giving back to your industry. But he did at this point, and I'm sure he did it earlier on. But you think about, like, really, how could you create and make the platform better for creatives out there? Because a guy like Lear Cohen's heart is really for the artists, the creators, people that are creative out there, right? So how can you give back to that industry and stay connected with the ones that are trying to come up right now? And we want you to get to that level at your business, and get to that level. Like, maybe you can start with some crazy idea like Brian Chesky did when they came up with Airbnb. And then he ended up building this $1 billion business that you had no clue, really probably had no imagination it would turn out that way. You were just trying to solve an immediate problem. So the next one you could do is you could pass the rock. Empower other people and be there for them when they're going through their own moments of reflection. Because you're at this level now. You make huge impact. You could be like a Richard Branson and own more than 200 businesses. And you know that I've got to be much more careful and reflective on what I choose to do with my businesses and decisions personally I make, because if I'm Richard Branson, I know that moves I make are going to greatly impact other people. There's so much attention on that guy, so many people that follow him and look up to him. So it's at a level you want to make sure when you get there that you've really refined your principles, your values, maybe your beliefs, policies, the way you kind of carry out your life, so that you're really thoughtful. You have thoughtful execution at that level, so that if you do make a mistake, well, it was an honest mistake. There was no intention, there was no intention to ruin the lives of anybody else and take anything away from someone else. It was just an honest mistake. So, and the next thing is you might want to start being more brutally honest with yourself. So look out for other people when you spot something that is wrong. I thought this is a pretty powerful lesson. What Lear Cohen was talking about was being brutally honest is because you're not going to blame the persona. Like, you're not going to blame that persona for who that person is acting as. You're going to try to protect the idea of who that person really is. So he's distinguishing sometimes between the action of what people do as their persona, but not truly who that person is. Like they're just stepping out of character. And I thought this was a pretty marvelous insight that he's talking about, because this is what helped me realize how much this guy is committed to the art of his business in the industry that he works in. Is that it's like, for example, if you see, he explained, if you saw an artist sipping lean or syrup, he's going to look at him and say, that is liquid heroin, right? Like, honestly, seriously, do you realize what you're doing? And he's not going to hold any punches. He's going to not hold back, because he cares that much about the industry and the artistry in it. He wants to see more people succeed. And so that blame the persona idea is, just look past what other people are doing, which could be their persona, and protect the idea of who that person is. Right? Next is learn from failures. Talked a lot about helping others, right? Let me go in here and imagine, like, each day, if it were your last, and ask yourself, if I were to bump into someone that's going to change the landscape in this industry, who could that be? Now, really, you want to sit back and imagine that. And this was something Leonard Cohen said he did for every day for 30 years. So he was really, honestly, because he worked with a record label and was trying to support the artist, so he had to constantly look for artists every day. And he was looking at it with the fact that who could I meet next that's going to really change the industry? I mean, maybe someone might say Justin Bieber just change the industry in music. They might come up with other artists like country. Maybe Blake Shelton. Somebody feel like he really changed the industry for music. So for him to understand his position and his role, he understood that he had to be open to connecting with new people. Other guys like Scooter Braun is pretty successful at finding great artists. He was also able to identify great talent with people when they were not recognized as great talent at all. He saw something that nobody else did, right? And that's kind of the idea here that you want to have for your business. Is if you're not in the music business, whatever business you have, you need to have partners no matter what. You're always going to partner with other companies. You're never going to be the end-to-end solution to build it. Maybe unless you're a systems thinker, like what we call Trepp West here, and that's a systems thinker. So think like J.D. Rockefeller. He was a Trepp West. He ended up building an end-to-end complete industry around the oil business. There was not a part of the oil industry that he didn't have ownership in, right? But those people were very, very, very few of them, rare. You don't see a lot of those. But you do have a lot of Trepp West. You do have a lot of Trepp system thinkers out there. And so when they're running a business and you're entrepreneurial, you need to know what your mindset is, right? We here at Trepp Show, we call them the four Trepps, like a compass. You got Trepp North, that's your idea thinker. You got your Trepp East, that's your people person. They connect well with other people, like an Oprah Winfrey or Jack Welch. You've got your Trepp South, which is more about timing, smart business people like Warren Buffett. And then lastly, you've got your Trepp West, like J.D. Rockefeller, the system thinker. That's all we have for you today, and we hope everybody enjoyed the show. Stay tuned with us and connect with us next week. We'll be most likely going live on Thursday evening, same time. Make it a great day, and reach out to us on Facebook, called the Trepp Talk Group on Facebook, and look for and join us, or subscribe to our newsletter at thetreppshow.com. Glad to have you here. Make it a